never the same. It's more than a game. Can't take it away. Can't kill out the shame. It's a guilty man that can grease the crack. It's total trash. Slap him on the back with a heavy rock.
Welcome to the 3% Podcast, the bi-weekly podcast brought to you by Open Letter and 3%. I'm Chad Post from Open Letter Books. I'm joined by Tom Roberge from Riff Raff.
Hello. Apologies, everyone, for doing this late in this week. We wanted to wait for the Nobel, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about.
Wait, what happened? The last thing I know is that the Cardinals scored 10 runs in the top of the first inning, and then I don't remember anything until this moment.
All right. Well...
So we can just talk about that. We can talk about that all day. Oh, wait. You want to talk about Peter Handke, huh? This is going to be a rough podcast, guys. So do you want to take the lead on this?
Well, I mean, I should profess that I was unfamiliar with all of the controversy surrounding him. Because really? I don't know what the hell I was doing in 2006. Apparently not paying attention to this. So I read a very long academic-y sort of article about the whole thing, which sort of alleges that the controversy disappeared in the wake of Günter Grass admitting that he had been in the SS as a teenager.
Right.
At around the same time, and so that everyone paid attention to that and not to this.
Because nobody ever really read Peter Handke, even when he was being translated regularly, because his books are fucking boring and very, very white male, contemplative, big thoughts out of my little brain sort of books. So they're not. He was never really popular enough to take that kind of controversy when you have someone else that you can pay attention to that people do read. You
mean in English? Yeah, in Europe, this is apparently a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
Prizes were rescinded, and it was a thing.
Will you be surprised at? Okay, so why don't you explain the controversy? Because I remember it from when it was going on. I'd been reading his books just prior to all that stuff breaking out, as also good friends with Dubravka Greshik and publishing her, and that is like everything that he stands for and does is morally and absolutely opposed to everything that she stands for and does, and he's a piece of shit. He's a fascist piece of shit. But you explain the whole thing because you're more fresh with it in your mind than I am.
So basically, the gist of it is that in the wake of the wars in Yugoslavia and Serbia, after Slobodan Milosevic was arrested and while he was on trial in The Hague for war crimes, he jumped to his defense, saying that anyone would do similar things to defend their land. And then when Milosevic died, he spoke at his funeral. And it's debated what he actually said at the funeral because it wasn't recorded. But the fact that he was there in the first place, obviously there to mourn him, speaks volumes. And
here's the quote that I have from the speech. The so-called world, knows everything about Yugoslavia, Serbia. The so-called world knows nothing about Slobodan Milosevic. The so-called world knows the truth. This is why the so-called world is absent today, and not only here. I don't know the truth, but I look, I listen, I feel, I remember. This is why I'm here today, close to Yugoslavia, close to Serbia, close to Slobodan Milosevic.
Yes. There you go. So in the wake of that, he was supposed to have a play that he'd written performed in Paris, and the producers canceled it, at which point there was controversy about it being censorship, even though that's not what censorship is. And he was supposed to be given some prize, but I'm blanking on the name.
Okay, I've got it in front of me. The prize that he was awarded the International Ibsen Award. Are you talking about the Heinrich Heine Prize? He was nominated for Heinrich Heine Prize in 2006, but the prize money of 50,000 euros had to be approved by the City Council of Dusseldorf. Members said they would vote against awarding the prize, resulting in it being withdrawn.
Right. And he apparently said he wouldn't accept it anyway, and whatever, before it was withdrawn, and the whole thing, obviously a lot of back and forth. finger pointing. He really dug his heels in, it sounds like. And basically, the article I was reading, and I should probably cite, hold on. It was in the American Scholar.
Is it the one called The Apologist?
Yeah, hold on, this is a very long article.
Yeah, it's super long, by Michael McDonald.
Yeah. And he talks about how Peter had this idea that language is the idea that language sort of is always being manipulated, and tried to paint this picture that what he was in favor of, like what he said at the funeral, the truth, and that everything was being whitewashed, and not whitewashed, that's the opposite. Everything was being filtered through this lens of Western superpower democratic countries, and they couldn't understand the situation on the ground, and it was unfair to Milosevic and what he was doing, and then that it was we just all made him out to be a bad guy, and he wasn't really that, basically.
All nationalists are bad guys.
Yeah, it's
Period.
Definitely shit. And
there's no way he deserves a fucking $1 million and the Nobel Prize period. My favorite one of the controversies is this one, and this is just from Wikipedia, because I was looking for more up-to-date stuff too. In 2014, Handke was awarded the International Ibsen Award, which caused some calls for the jury to resign. The decision was condemned by PEN Norway. Bernd Hagvad, an expert on totalitarianism, called the award an unprecedented scandal, stating that, quote, awarding Handke the Ibsen Prize is comparable to awarding the Immanuel Kant Prize to Goebbels. A group of demonstrators protested against him when he arrived to receive the prize. On the other hand, Jan Fosse, who, go fuck yourself, buddy, former recipient of the prize, welcomed the decision, saying that Handke was a worthy recipient and deserved the Nobel Prize in Literature. Which has made me very much dislike Jan Fosse.
Yeah, which is lame.
But they're the same writer. They're that same white male Euro writer. Like, they're the same guy. So it's not really surprising. But what was the fuck was all I'm just going to swear a lot on this podcast. Again, apologize to everyone. I'm not having a good day so far, and this is really bothersome to me. But what happened to the jury being like, we're not going to be so white and Eurocentric? It was the literal statement from the Nobel Prize Literary Committee, and they award it to 2 Europeans who are white. Sure, one's a female, great, but like, what? What are you doing? Why are you saying this stuff and then just absolutely going against it? There's a graph that I found of a Nobel Prize award winners. Oh shit! I hope I didn't just delete it. I think I did. I don't know where I'm gonna find it now, but it was a list of all the Nobel Prize literature winners. Oh, I do know where it is, and it is so grossly Eurocentric. So the Nobel Prize winners by country. These are the ones that are listed on the Wall Street Journal. U.S., U.K., Germany, France, Sweden, Poland, Russia, Japan, Italy, Canada, Netherlands.
What do you...
As being the countries that have had Nobel Prize winners in literature. That can't be right, can it?
I mean, there was obviously one from China not that long ago.
So why is this graph like super incomplete?
That is kind of strange. Yeah, I no longer have Twitter on my phone, which everyone should do. Really a great thing. But once I'd gotten up and after I'd read that article, I was looking on Twitter just out of curiosity and came across something by one of my booksellers and translator, Julia Sanchez, I'm just going to quote her here. Happy for Tokarczuk, but two white Europeans writing in two of the top 6 languages represented by the Nobel in literature, not languages of the diaspora, but Eurocentric languages. And then another, exactly, even Tokarczuk, so much love as a crowd pleaser. Perhaps if they, the Nobel Committee, hadn't acknowledged and apologized for their Eurocentrism, we could have just been like, same old, same old. I was naively hopeful.
Yep.
This is, yeah. And I feel like we should, give proper credit to Olga Tokarczuk for winning. I mean, she's wonderful. I think Jenny Croft is absolutely brilliant.
I like her translators. I mean, I've read all her books. She's not a Nobel Prize winning writer, but whatever. Good for her.
Yeah. This is where we are. I don't know. It's frustrating.
Like Ishiguro won.
It's frustrating that this is where they couldn't salvage their reputation and do something good and sort of award somebody from somewhere else.
They quite honestly couldn't have fucked this up anymore. I don't think. There's almost no possible other combination where you'd be like, oh no, that's worse. Like, I mean, Olga's fine. She's a good writer. She's a fine person. Her translators are wonderful. I'm really glad that, like, when Susan Harris published her books in 2002, that she started to get read by Americans. And I've read all of her books. I've tried to publish her. There's a story about that I should not repeat on this podcast and will not. But I don't know. I mean, it should have been, it should have been someone that was not from a European country. And Handke is just appalling. And this is their statement: for an influential work about Handke, an influential work that with linguistic ingenuity has explored the periphery and the specificity of human experience. Does that mean things?
Yeah, I read those too, and I was like, what on earth does that fucking mean?
And the Olga's one is equally baffling. For a narrative imagination that with encyclopedic passion represents the crossing of boundaries as a form of life.
No idea what that means either.
I don't. This is just nonsense. These people are just nonsense. I don't even think that we should give them our time. But the Handke thing is appalling. It's appalling. It really is. Would you be shocked if they rescinded it?
It's funny. So because these authors are so little read in the English-speaking world, like even after the Booker International and everything, like the few articles that I found in the wake of the announcement don't go into this in any way, shape, or form, because they're just like, oh, here's some dude who won. This is the news, right?
The Wall Street Journal does. The Wall Street Journal says one statement. They said they have one sentence. Handke, however, has drawn widespread criticism for his apparent support of former Serbian leader Slobodan Milosevic. British author Salman Rushdie in 1999 described Handke as an apologist for the Milosevic regime's genocidal policies, and at the Serbian Leaders Memorial Service in 2006, Handke delivered a speech declaring his backing for Milosevic before 20,000 mourners. Yeah, so that's all. That's not much. Yeah.
No, so what I was saying is that it'll be interesting to see if once this is dragged out into the light, if the BBC and other places, perhaps more in Europe than in the U.S., because I don't think the Nobel Committee gives a shit about what anyone in America says.
No.
If what dominates the news cycle about these two awards is all of that, then maybe they would reconsider. But my impression is that they're just a bunch of proud assholes who are never going to do that.
What is the new arrangement with the Nobel Prize, like with the who's making the selections and the Swedish Academy and all that?
Oh, I have no idea. I probably read about it when it was announced that it was coming back this year, and they do too, and then immediately forgot because it's just so bureaucratic and arcane, the whole thing.
Yeah, because it used to be awarded through that Swedish Academy, which had the club that they're filtering money into and all the rapes and
right.
Great. And then does it say? I don't know. I can't figure out. I can't find anything right now, so I don't remember. But I wondered how it was reconstructed. If it was reconstructed, or if it was basically just like, oh yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, my impression was that they just fixed the problem, which is a horrible way of explaining it. And then back to business as usual. Here's
the statement. Okay, so this is what I can find again on Wikipedia to source something not reliable. The decision to make announcing two winners for 2018-2019 came after several changes were made to the structure of the Swedish Academy as well as to the Nobel Committee member selection in order to, quote, restore trust in the Academy as a prize awarding institution. Fucking shot yourself right through the mouth with that. That's gross. Oh my God. So, I don't know. I'm not going to buy a single Handke book, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I'm debating whether or not to even order them. My gut says no. And I will explain to every customer who comes in looking for them exactly why.
Nope. Absolutely not. So there was another announcement that I was going to talk about when we were going to record this, which also, FYI, we waited for the Nobel, but we also had to delay because I left my computer at home one morning, so I'm an idiot. But the other one that I was going to talk to you about is the National Book Award finalists, which were announced so soon after the long list that I didn't even realize it was happening. And I literally looked at it, closed it, and I don't even remember who's on this. So looking at it, I just searched it. Looking at this is like seeing things all over again for the first time. I have no memory of who was on this list. But the five, do you have it, or do you want me to just
I
tell
have
you?
it. I just want to comment that. So I'm trying to remember who's got the deal. So the National Book Awards, the long list were announced
The
through
New Yorker.
the New Yorker. Okay, the Vanity Fair announcements are what I found for these short lists.
Really?
Is that the official partner?
I thought it was NPR.
Oh, anyway,
I don't, or maybe still
'cause
the
it
New
says-
Yorker.
I'm seeing exclusive the 2019 National Book Awards finalists. And this is on
Wow.
Vanity Fair. Wow.
Vanity Fair. Wow. Okay. There you go.
All right.
That's
Anyway,
interesting. I wouldn't have guessed that, but cool.
I wouldn't have thought that either. I mean, I guess
I
they're
put
doing the work.
I put in Vanity Fair NBA finalists, and I got lots of stuff about the NBA finals and LeBron James. Whoops. I forgot that there's two.
It's a shared acronym. It's true.
Oh, but yeah, that's funny. So we'll do the translation ones, but the other ones might be interesting to look at too. So the translated titles are Khalid Khalifa's Death is Hard Work, translated from the Arabic by Larry Price. Laszlo Krasznahorkai's Baron Wenkheim's Homecoming, translated from the Hungarian by Attili Mulzit. Scholastique Mukasanga's The Barefoot Woman, translated from the French by Jordan Stump. Yoko Ogawa's The Memory Police, translated from the Japanese by Stephen Snyder. Still have not received my copy of that I paid for through Random House. Pat Jim's Dactovici Crossing, translated from the Finnish by David Haxton. So Naya's book didn't make it, and I don't remember what the other books that didn't make it were.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Emma thought that there might have been a real chance for Naya's book. She really thought it was like powerful and moving. So
yeah, whatever.
So I finally got. So we had Neba last week, and that was where I actually got my hands on a finished copy of Krasznahorkai's book, which, thanks New Directions.
We don't have that. They haven't sent it to us at all.
Well, I think they had to reprint, so maybe that might explain it. Anyway, so I started reading it the other day, and it's pretty fucking amazing, I gotta say. I mean, like all of his books, sure, but wow, I forgot how good he is. I had not read anything in a couple of years, and my God, just so good, so good. He would be my pick, frankly. I'm
gonna go with Scholastique Mukasanga.
You think so?
I don't know. I have a feeling.
Just a feeling, huh?
Just a feeling. I mean, I'm going to be wrong. I picked Space Invaders because I thought that was the funniest one I could come up with a joke for. So that was that was my whole selection criteria process. So I don't think that I have any. My feelings don't count for shit unless it's baseball. Unless it's baseball, I've been controlling that like a god. So that I've got, but this I don't have a clue. I'm trying to find even.
So, somewhat related to this, I found out from someone. I don't know if this is information I can share with naming who told me. But do you know the reading and judging process for the Booker?
Yeah, I talked about this on the podcast that you listened to. The one where you have to read it 3 times?
Yeah, that whole thing.
Yeah.
Jesus. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I think that's spectacular. So yeah,
I think
repeating it for anyone who didn't hear, it was on the first episode of the new 2-month review on Ducks Newburyport, because it's a Booker finalist. So the Booker Prize mandate is that they read all the books, they choose a long list, they read all the books on the long list again, choose a short list, read all the short list books again, and then choose a winner on the day that they announce the award, which I believe is the 14th, which is next Monday, I guess.
Yeah. Yes.
Monday.
Yes.
So they have to read the winning book they'll have read 3 times. So if it is Ducks Newburyport, that's a 1,000-page book that you've read 3 times. Although it does read really fast, and it's not as long as it might appear to be in some ways. But that's a lot to ask of someone to be a judge. But I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's absolutely insane that other people don't do this. Like, now that I'm aware that this is going on, every prize panel jury should be doing this.
I think well, so here's throw a question up for you. So yeah, I agree with that. Does that mean that we should restrict the Best Translated Book Award and start to rein it in? Because we're not eligible for any of these UK awards because we don't have an office there. We could limit this to American publishers, therefore cutting back the number and cut back the long list and cut back the short list and enforce this like 3-read rule?
The problem is, and I mean, this was my first question when I heard about it, so I should back up and say, so Emma and I listened to your episode on Duck's New Report because I was driving her to the airport and she didn't want to listen to my political podcast. Fair enough. And so we decided to listen because neither of us has read Ducks yet, and we were just curious, and it was the first one, so I was like, if we're going to listen to any of them, like, this is, like, good timing, right?
Yeah.
So we listened. So we didn't get to the end, but as we were driving, Emma told me this about the 3 reads. So we must have turned it off right before
funny.
you.
That's very funny.
Anyway, but when Emma was telling me this, my first question was, well, yeah, but they can do that because they're being paid, right?
Being
like
paid.
The people who are judges are not like full-time employees at, like, for example, a bookstore who have all this time to read these books 3 times and to read literally everything. Unlike with the BTBA, sort of.
They read the ones that are submitted. Yeah, there's only like 100 books or so that are submitted, I think, for the Man Booker. I don't think it's an astronomical sum because they have to pay to do it. That's still a lot of books. No, don't get me wrong, and it's still a lot of reading.
Absolutely.
And it absolutely requires you to be a full-time judge, which is wild. That can be a thing. That is my dream, but I will never, ever, ever be able to achieve that dream. But that would be my dream, to be a judge of a prize for a year like that. I don't know how much they get paid, but let me see if I can find this. But yeah, it's a wild circumstance.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there is money involved, and that's a hurdle to changing the way BTPA might be judged going forward, right? Because your judges are given an honorarium, but it's nowhere close to what I assume the Booker people are getting, as they ask them to read everything, literally everything, and then read it, the short list twice, and then the long list twice, and then the short list for a third time.
So I've got some information from last year that might help refine what they talk about going forward. So one of the judges was interviewed for the New York Times, and they said that they had to read 171 books in 7 months to judge the prize, and it's Val McDermott, and the response is, I thought it'd be tough, I thought it'd be hard work, but I also thought I'd just do it. I read quickly, but it was a huge ask. It did just swallow up my year. Did you read all of them? I would say we assess, in quotes, all the books. To be honest, there's some when you're not very far into it and you think, this is not going to be the Booker Prize. So...
that's not what I was told. I was told that they were really strict about it being, that you don't put it down, that you read the book all the way through, that you don't give up on it, that you don't skim it or anything like that.
This is the thing that I'm doing this next month. I actually read most of them digitally, so I was reading as blind as I could. I wasn't reading blurbs. I wasn't influenced by covers or author bios. You reread each book you longlisted, and you've just reread the shortlisted ones. Does that repetition change anything? Yeah, your perspective changes because you've listened to your fellow judges, and inevitably they see things in the book that you might have missed, or that they have a different take to you. It should be from you, I guess. Certainly between the long list and the short list, some books rose in my estimation, and some books fell away a little.
It's interesting. It's definitely, like, as you guys were talking about with rereading Duck's New Report, you're going to catch different things, especially in a book that long, and especially on something that, I don't want to say plants Easter eggs or anything, but like definitely plants things that we'll turn to, right?
Yeah. And
with something so long, and so dense, even if the writing is not, Crash and Horkai is sort of dense, there are so many words on the page, let's just say, it's very hard to remember all these specific details, right? And you would going into the second reading, you would know what's going on, so you pay less attention to that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
And you can appreciate it. It's kind of like, I've now seen, and people who know me in my daily life will hear me talk about this all the time, I've now seen Inherent Vice 3 times. And I think it's one of the greatest movies of this century. I think it's fucking brilliant. But it's better each time because there's so many little things that go on with P.T. Anderson's direction, with the acting, with the material that they're working with based on Pynchon, of course. And so it's so layered and complicated and so dense a plot to begin with that you have to just let it wash over you the first time, and then the second and third time you really start noticing all these wonderful little details that they don't even really matter to like the whole movie as a whole and the arc, but they add a richness that you wouldn't catch the first time, simply because you're just like, oh, what's going on here?
Yeah, I've been rereading all the Pynchon books. I finished Against the Day, and I'm going to reread that at some point in like a couple of years probably. But I just reread Crying Lot 49 too. I'm planning on going through all of them again. And Inherent Vice, I've never seen the movie because I wanted to reread the book again before seeing the movie.
Never seen the movie? You need to stop right now, go home, and watch it.
Dude, I don't you know how rarely I watch movies. I'm so far behind on everything, Tom. I can't watch a movie.
Take a sick day. Take a sick day, go home and watch it.
Take a sick day. You know, and when I sign in my hours, I have 0 hours of sick leave according to the university system. So I'm not allowed to be sick. But yeah, I do want to watch it, and if I want to reread that, that's one of the ones that's coming up in the future for me.
Yeah, it's funny. So I just got some new tattoos, and the guy who's doing my tattoos has the muted post-horn tattoo. Like,
yeah, right on.
So we talked about that. His was old and faded, and I was like,
really?
wow, man, a long time ago.
I got mine in 2009.
Oh God, he must have gotten his like 10 years before that.
That's crazy.
It was blurry and faded. It also could have been like, bad tattoo artist, or he had done it himself or something like that many, many years ago.
Right.
Anyway, we're a little off track, but yes,
rereading is important. So what if we did that? What if we said, let's imagine a new world? So the Best Friends of the Book Award was premised upon the idea it would be like the National Book Critics Circle, in which all the books would be eligible because people shouldn't be excluded. There's not enough translations. It shouldn't be favoring the rich, like everything else does. And should be like democratic and open to like finding the books that were already being ignored. If we eliminated any British book that does not have a U.S. publisher, that's just distributed here and does not have a U.S. base, the way that all the men book, like we can apply for the Booker Prize International, we can get the Warwick Prize for women's literature, even if we do fucking way more books by women than a lot of the people that are getting plugged in there. We can't get any of those things from the UK. So what if we reverse it, did that? I think the number of eligible books would be trimmed by probably 200. And then if you added on that you have to pay a submission fee, even if it's a token of like $25, that would go towards the readers. Maybe we'd end up with like 200 books, $25 is $5,000. That's not enough to split up. It would just you'd have to reduce the number of judges to like say 5, and they each get $1,000 from that. And that the long list would be 10 books, short list is 5, winner is 1.
I think there's a way to do this that maintains the notion of openness and keeps it relatively cost-free for any publisher of a translation in the U.S. to, pay for it. I think a token, what if you did it by publisher? So that like, for example, Open Letter does 8 or 10 books a year. You just pay one fee for all of those books. And
Interesting. The problem is making the money work. There's two things at work here. One is making the money work when we don't know if we're ever going to be funded again for the prize winnings. We don't have any endowment. It's year to year, and it's been cut by more than half, by more than 50% over the past 2 years. So the prize money has been reduced significantly, and that makes the payment for the readers gets cut as a result of that. We paid a shitload to put in all of our books into the National Translation Awards, and we didn't get a single long-listed title for the fiction, which is really disappointing. Like, there's a lot of disappointment in life, but that was shockingly disappointing that Dubravka's book didn't get on there at least. But like to pay like $500 for that award is ridiculous. I don't think we're going to do it anymore. Like, I don't know that I want to support it because I feel like it's probably just poorly managed. But sorry, Alta, sorry everyone who's listening, but personal opinion. And like paying for the National Book Awards is super costly. And that one we've had to cut back. We cut back to like a couple entries, knowing that we're just not going to get these things. So the problem with having anyone pay anything is that it's very easy to become disincentivized when you don't feel like you have a fair shot. And I don't think our books have a fair shot with these awards. And the BTBA was set up to be giving a fair shot to everyone that's involved in this little subsection of the world, instead of like creating a new sort of pyramid of who's got power and who doesn't, who's popular and who's not. So I like initially like knee-jerk reaction to like not doing this, but at the same time, like maybe the Best Translated Book Award needs to evolve into something completely different, since like everyone's replaced it. Like I started a thing that's been absolutely replaced and is like relegated to the sidelines in the minds of almost everyone. So I'm not sure that it doesn't need to be completely overhauled and become something entirely different.
What does that mean, though? Like,
I don't know. Asking listeners, give me some ideas. I'm burnt out.
I wasn't expecting it to get so existential.
Yeah, sorry, man. So the last thing I remember is there were 10 runs in the first inning, and I woke up and a fascist won the Nobel Prize, and that's not cool. So that is an existential crisis right there, in like from happiness to sorrow. Why are we here?
It is frustrating. I mean, I definitely, to sort of tie this back a little bit to, you know, our work, what we do, what we try to do as people in the book world. So last week at NEBA, Emma was on a panel for selling books in translation. And it was, you know, if you've ever been to one of these, especially at a regional show, and nothing against my book selling colleagues in New England, you know, the panel was sort of the basics, 101, you know, here's how translation bookselling can work for you. And the publishers that were there, let me not screw up anyone's name here. Juan Mila from Harper Via, the new imprint.
That's what his name is, yeah.
Kathy Weiss, who is Director of Sales, Marketing, Business Development at Europa Editions. They both talked about, you know, how important it is for independent bookstores to support translations because they're a challenge to publish in the first place, et cetera, and how it is possible that these things sell. And they point to Elena Ferrante and, you know, writers like that. And then Emma, of course, talked about how we'd sell them in our store, which is, you know, as we've talked about a million times, like you just put them on the table and don't call them out and don't put them in a ghetto and just showcase them in a way that you would showcase any other book and that sort of thing. And so they have this whole discussion, and then when they open it up to questions from the booksellers, and there are questions like, so how does it work? How does translation work? Right? And you're just like, oh God, like, and it's obvious that a lot of booksellers just don't. Emma was just she still is in Beirut she gave a talk on Monday about this fear of translation and it being, you know, something not real, it not being the author's real words and it being a bastardized version of it and all of that sort of stuff. And anyone who's tried to sell translations totally understands that, because it's partly the inability for someone to pronounce someone's last name, which is like a very American sort of xenophobia wrapped up in ignorance, mixed with this idea that you can't truly understand something if it's been put through the filter of a translator, right?
Yeah.
And this is a very, very prevalent problem that still exists, despite the success of people like Elena Ferrante, or before that with like Elegance of the Hedgehog or Murakami, or any of these like really, really well-selling translations. Mm-hmm. I think we're delusional sometimes, and we think like, oh, translation's having a moment, and then you look at the numbers and you think, oh no, that's just not true. There are plenty of bookstores out there that just don't carry these things.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's frustrating, but I forget what my point was. But basically I'm wondering if there's a way to just take the BTBA and turn it into something more geared towards the book selling world.
That's what I was going to say. We have talked to the ABA about doing more for it, and they are resistant.
That might change. You know, there's like some, Oren is retiring, and at least in NEBA, the people that had been there for a while have been retiring. And I am optimistic that the ABA is trying to do things the right way and in terms of diversity. And having different sorts of books sort of be the thing that they represent and push to their member bookstores.
Yeah,
that's a complicated thing. Not very many stores actually buy into like indies first and all of that sort of stuff in like a very significant way. But I do think you got to start somewhere, and the more they do this and the more they talk about these things, the better it is in the long term. And panels like what Emma was on during NEBA, like it's just one little thing, and it's a room full of, I don't know, 40 booksellers, a dozen of which are like very much like me and Emma's and are like already on board. But then there doesn't seem to be a lot of in between is the problem, right? Yeah. There aren't stores that are like willing to take the chance and do a little bit and whatever. There are just a lot of stores that just don't do it at all. And making inroads with them in their little way. And I think Europa Editions has been very good at this in the terms of marketing their things. And I think, no offense to Harper Via, but I think they're just trying to copy what Europa Editions has done in terms of their list and everything. It just seems very obvious that they're trying to capitalize on that, which is not a bad thing. It's just how do they actually get more books in the store without it seeming like a huge push? Like a lot of weight to lift in order to get even just a tiny little foothold. And I don't know if the ABA does the ABA do any book awards?
I don't think so. And that's what I approached them about that too. And if they would like to take over or be like the host of the Best Translated Book Award and make it a purely bookseller driven initiative, I would be happy to listen to how that could work. Because I don't think that we're doing. I think our most existential is shit. I think that our moment has passed. I think that I did a thing that was good, and that is no longer valued, and it needs to be from someone else to be valued again. And I don't want it to just go away, but I don't want to keep running into a wall. We're getting no coverage, getting no funding, getting no attention. Like all that stuff is just fucking painful. Like when a winning book doesn't have any recognition among like more than a dozen booksellers, like is it winning anything?
Right. No, I understand. I absolutely understand. I mean, look, I've been involved with this thing with you for many years, and I can tell you, like on the ground, like people just don't know what the award is. My customers just don't know, and that's partly a failure of like the media writ large, because it's not like they know anything beyond. They don't even really know what the National Book Award is.
Yeah, well, it was 100%. Once the National Book Award launched a translation thing, we lost all coverage. It went from something to zero. Like literally, the next year it was zero. There was not a single write-up about it. So I don't know. So there is the ABA's Entrepreneurial Excellence Award. That's the only award that I can find that they give out. That's not a book award.
Well, all the regionals give out awards, but those are based on, like, if
people living there
decided to do a best book in translation, either the translator or the author, obviously not the translator, or it would have to be. I think the rules are that it's like set in New England or something like that.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, there are plenty of translators living all over the U.S. They don't all live in New York, so
we did have an award from the NCIBA in Northern California for David Frick's translation of a Jerzy Pilk book some years ago, because they had a NCIBA Translators Award for anyone who lived out in California. I think that still exists, in fact, but I haven't heard about it.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I would like to. I mean, I'm going to propose it. I'm now on the advisory council for NEBA, and we have our first meeting. So the term goes from whatever right after the annual meeting to the next one. I'm going to float this out there and see what we can't do. And even though I've now made enemies with Oren,
that's cool.
Yeah, it was worth it. It was worth it.
How did you? Can you tell this story?
I suppose I can. I mean, it was public information. They freely gave this information out there. But God, I'm just gonna dig a hole here. But
do it.
So I met with somebody from Bookshop, the replacement for IndieBound that's coming in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
And in the course of discussing how it would work for us and whatever. I asked a lot of questions because I still have mixed feelings about it. I don't quite know if we're going to sign up or not. But it came out that they intended to put on individual book pages links to Goodreads reviews. And I was like, that's insane. They're owned by Amazon. And the line I got was, it's still the single best way for, everyday readers to share their opinions on books and blah, blah, blah. Fine, whatever. I didn't think too much about it. During the annual NEBA meeting, the public meeting, someone asked about IndieBound, and Oren got up and talked about Bookshop, and someone else asked about, well, how personalized is it, and can we put like bookseller recommendations? And I brought up that, they were intending to use Goodreads, and the room just like erupted, like, are you kidding me? Why on earth? And blah, 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 and all this sort of stuff. So there was a lot of back and forth between me, another bookseller from Maine, and the ABA about what Bookshop is and how involved the ABA is and what it's going to look like and all of this. No one is embracing it wholeheartedly at this point, is what I will say. But Oren did try to defend their position that this is a good thing overall to Amazon.
Interesting. That is interesting.
Yeah, I did get an email a few days later from the woman I had met with, who said that she talked to Andy, and apparently there was a lot of pushback on the idea of including Goodreads, so they were going to drop it.
Oh, really? Okay, so they did respond and dropped it.
Not publicly in any way, but she did respond to me personally. So
yeah,
I'm sure I got back. Well, so after the meeting, I got accosted by a PW reporter who wanted to. Apparently, I was the only one who met with this woman. So he came up to me and asked me, he's like, "Did she really say that?" I was like, "Yes, I'm not making this up." And so we talked for a little bit, and I told him who she was, and presumably he reached out to her, and maybe some other people reached back out to Andy himself and talked about this, and yeah, they made the right decision.
Awesome.
Anyway, but so maybe there is some space for the ABA to start considering things like this. I don't know. They're not going to do like national awards, so it would seem weird that they would sponsor something like this. But even if the regionals started doing best translations, that's not.
That would really break it apart. I even if they just sort of like put like the information out to the bookstores that are ABA members, and they've never done that. They've never even like used our press release.
No.
Like that would be we asked for that too, to like send this in your white box to everyone so they know this exists, and they're like, no thank you. I mean, when is the ABA going to actually have an indie next list that's not a pile of shit too, and that's like clearly favoring a certain group of publishers? Like what do I have to do to get one of our books on this for after 10 fucking years, 11 now? I will do anything, any bookseller listing list. I'll do anything you want if you will recommend 4x4 by Sarah Mesa for the Indie Next list. The nomination is due on March 4th. We have copies. It's on Edelweiss. I will do anything you want if you will nominate this, because I want to know what it takes to get a book on there. And I want to know from you, ABA, what I need to do, because I feel like we're being excluded from this possibility, and it's damaging our business, and it makes me not like you.
My understanding is you just need like whatever the threshold is of.
We have hit said threshold.
You have. Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Well, then I will ask at the NEBA meeting what the decision-making process is behind the scenes of that list.
Also, get a list of how much they charge each level of publisher.
Oh, I've seen these numbers before, and I cannot remember what they are, but I don't remember it being a ton of money.
It's pretty up there.
I mean,
they start really high, and then they cut it down. And I'm pretty sure that there's a calculus that goes on how much each one of these lists has to generate in profit. So the certain books cannot be included if they're not going to be able to pay a certain amount. Otherwise, the whole thing would fall apart, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
or
cool.
It would just be populated by Hachette and Penguin Random House.
Yeah, it's neither democratic nor a meritocracy.
Yeah, I don't know. I will say, like I said, not a lot of bookstores buy into it wholesale. They sort of use it as like, oh, that's interesting. People are on board with this one. I was on the fence about it. Maybe I'll order a few more copies. They're not putting up these big displays, etc. But those few more copies times whatever 200
Yep.
adds for you guys. For you guys specifically.
You know what? You want to know what the percentage of sales to all indie bookstores is for this fiscal year?
Oh God, under 10?
16%.
16.
16%.
That's less than. I mean, that's less.
These are
than
our great supporters.
Yeah.
We sold more books in-house through our website so far this year.
Yeah, that is. I mean, this is of course the great scam of independent bookselling's relationship with these big publishers is that everyone pretends as if indie bookstores are the lifeblood of selling books, and it's just not true. I mean, 20%. If only 20% of all books sold in America are sold through independent bookstores, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a big problem.
And well, Barnes & Noble is negative because so far I've only returned books. So I want to read you one last quote about Handke because I'm not giving this up, but I just came across this. In the course of his attack on Western coverage of the Balkan conflict, Handke accuses the Bosnians of staging market massacres in Sarajevo and casts doubt on the murder of Muslims in, I think it's Srebrenica. When critics pointed out that the victims' corpses provided evidence of Serb atrocities, the writer replied, "You can stick your corpses up your ass." Nobel Prize winner. Nobel Prize winner.
Jesus Christ.
Yep. Thank you, Nobel Prize Committee, for taking away my joy from last night. Remember, 10 runs, first inning, never happened before in postseason play. Amazing.
What? I swear, sorry, people. I swear, in the middle of the game, they talked about how, wait a minute. Was it the Brooklyn Dodgers? Scored 10 runs in the first inning against the St. Louis Cardinals.
I didn't have that. I was at the bar, which also thank you, St. Louis, for like nearly killing me because I planned to drink like 3 drinks. Like every 3 innings, I have a drink. I finished my beer in the first half of that inning because it was like 35 minutes long.
Yeah.
I still heard this morning on ESPN that there had never happened in the first inning of a postseason game.
Oh,
yeah.
I swear that's what I read. Anyway,
I'm looking at. I don't know. Maybe it's true. Who knows?
And the game ended 13-1. The one from back in history.
That's one ended 13-1 too.
I know. That's creepy.
That's really weird. Yeah, I'm trying to find if this.
That's why I remember the conversation because they were like, and that game ended 13-1, and I'm watching it. I'm like, wait a minute, no one's going to mention that this game is 13-1.
I like how you can erase that first inning, and the Cardinals still won.
Right.
That was amazing. Amazing.
I missed it all because I was still at work.
That was the only one. I fell asleep during the other one, so I woke up to see your text, and I was like, what happened? It's like 4 a.m., and I'm like glancing through like things like, oh no, how did I miss this? Anyways, we'll stop with the baseball talk. Anything else about books that we want to mention?
Not really. Yeah. I have not gotten a copy of 4x4 yet, even though I don't live all that far from you.
Huh. I think. Oh, you know what? Do you want to know? Do you want to know something? So, we had rush ordered some of them for me to get them to bring to London, and they did not arrive on time. Then we had all of them were supposed to come, and we have a problem where whatever address Ingram is using to ship us our galleys that we get printed through Lightning Source, it gets rerouted through all of Rochester and ends up in a space where they say, we can't deliver this because we can't find you. And we have to redo a bunch of stuff. So it was over a week late. We just got them in. They're all going out now. A few people got them ahead of time because Anthony sent them. But I don't know who he sent them to because we only had like 10 copies.
Apparently Will Evans got one.
Oh, I actually know why that is. Because Anthony talked to someone about blurbing it.
Okay.
I'll rush you one right now. I'm holding one in my hands. I'm sending it to you right now.
All right.
And everyone else who want it, give it. We're going to have a bunch more with all the bookseller blurbs and all that kind of stuff for Winter Institute. And we are having a party at Winter Institute too. So trying our best, guys.
Yeah. So that's all. That's all I have to say. Like I said, I'm reading the Correctional Horkai, which is long.
Yeah.
Very long.
I'm reading Lex Newburyport, which is very good, and
Gotta say, your podcast really made both of us, me and Emma, really want to read it. We do want to complain a little bit here about your loving moms.
What? can't complain about someone who loves
Emma
moms.
Emma can.
I
Emma
said I
say,
don't not like non-moms. I really like moms.
her argument, Emma, and I'm pretty sure I've got this completely accurate. You don't need to be a mother to understand what it's like to be a woman.
That's fine, but I really like moms. I like working with moms. I just like them. I just like them. I don't know what to tell you, man. People my age tend to be most of the women I know my age tend to be moms. So that's part of a built-in cycle of whatever you want to call it, like remembrance and liking. So
Right.
it's kind of built in too.
Still sounds creepy. Just gonna say that.
I don't mean it in that way. They're just like, I like them. They're nice people. That's it. Not creepy. Not in any creepy ass way. Come on, man. Married man.
Anyway, yes, your podcast makes the book sound very good. There were some interesting things in there from Dan as well, which I thought were very interesting. Someday I will get to it.
It's really, it goes really quick. The other thing that I've been reading is the new Juan Jose Sara book that we're bringing out next fall, which is great. Which is really great too. I really like him, and hopefully this will be the time that more people start to pick him up. But otherwise, we've been like frantically dealing with On Time and Water, the Anders Snar Magnusson book, which it's being rush translated so that we can have it for Winter Institute, and the rights have been sold all over. Biblioasis is doing Canadian, Profile Books is doing the UK. It's sold to a bunch of other countries pre-Frankfurt, so that's been like a big thing that we've been dealing with here in the past week. I'm looking really quick because PW just released their announcement about this. Yeah, they do reference that he's been significantly criticized in PW.
Good. Okay.
And they do say, following a few years of rising nationalist views in countries worldwide, including in Europe, the decision by the Swedish Academy, the body that deliberates on the winners of the Nobel Prize in Literature, to award 2 European authors with seemingly contradictory political views may be seen as a political statement in itself, especially considering that the Academy has been accused of having a European bias. Of the past 10 Nobel laureates, 7 have been from European countries, including 2010 laureate and Spanish author Mario Vargas Llosa, who was born in Peru. 2 have been from North America, 1 from Asia.
Right. As always, it gets relegated to the fact that it's Eurocentric is just like a bunch of stats. Like no one actually talks about the systemic reasons why that is. They just throw out some stats and say, "Oh God, this is bad," and that's it.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? I mean, someone should really break it down. I mean, congratulations again to Olga. It's good for you. It's good for all the translators that are involved. Susan Harris, Twisted Spoon Press. That's all fantastic. But it just the whole thing has a sour ring to it because of the other award, and I think it's gonna, in some ways, and for me, it's detracted from her winning, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I agree. It's really unfortunate. I mean, hopefully this, like I said, we're not going to order Handke's book, so I will just be selling more copies of Flights and the most recent one, Drive Your Bones Over the. I'm blanking on the title, but
Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead.
There you go. And we'll just sell more of those. They've already been selling, but it's another reason to sell even more, and that's a good thing. So
I'll plug in here, too. You can go read my article about that, because I wrote a very praising article of Drive Your Bones some time ago. I don't even remember when it is, but I'll link to it in here so that people can maybe read it as the most lackluster recommendation ever. I don't have anything else.
Nor do I.
I'm just ready to go back to the bar and watch another baseball game.
I hope that within the next 2 weeks you watch Inherent Vice. It's truly amazing.
Okay, I'll give it a try. I'll see if I can carve out some time to not be working.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, talk to you soon, man.
All right, later.
It's the song I hate. You got a stupid man. You got a Ku Klux Klan.